Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Moore, and I'm the Executive Director of the Sooke Fine Arts Show. It's my pleasure to be hosting these talks, and tonight's talk will be with Birgit Coath. But before we get going, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that the Sooke First Nation is the land we gather on in celebration of the arts, and we are supremely grateful for that. A few housekeeping notes here, as I mentioned, that we will be muting during the session here. If you have any questions, there is a chat box over on the side, and I'm sure there'll be some time either dispersed through Birgit's talk or at the end of the talk to ask questions and have them answered, and more importantly. I think that explains it for now. So I would like to introduce tonight's talk. It is called How Does Artwork Draw Us In? And it's our 9th talk in the series for this year's show. And our speaker tonight is going to be Birgit Coath. I will introduce her right now. And my notes say that early on, Birgit learned to closely examine the world around her to interpret and ultimately express her version of its uniqueness, resulting in paintings with a distinct sense that more of the story lurks just behind the canvas. She is an accomplished and multiple award-winning artist, having earned her signature status with the Federation of Canadian Artists. She has been honored to receive coaching from the world-class artist Donna Zhang, and Donna has helped develop Birgit's unique style without compromising her innate regard for the old masters. Her work is technically sound, exceptional, and timeless, and we're very pleased to have her work in the show with us this year. The beautiful pink peony is a wonderful piece. So tonight's talk, Birgit is going to explore the question, what makes some 2D artwork feel as though you're lured right into it? For instance, in that piece, I feel like I could be a little bumblebee, right, going to the center of that peony. She will help gain an understanding of what creates a depth and discover several tools to help achieve that. So whether you're an artist wanting to hone your skills or an art appreciator wanting to understand why a piece appeals to you, this talk has something for everyone. So now I'd like to turn it over to Birgit.
Thank you, Terry. And Terry's worked really hard behind the scenes in order to make this work. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, let me just start at the beginning. One thing that I have learned is that the more I learn, the less I know. And as I hone my skills, I think, well, why didn't I know that before? So what I want to share with you are some of the things that I've learned and work for me. And I've picked up a couple of examples from other people's work as well, so that it just to illustrate some of the things that I'm going to talk about. And we're going to talk about everything from canvas size to warm or cool color, value, which is light or dark, and pure color versus grade color, G-R-E-Y, and then combining all those three together, the use of brush strokes, the use of edges, whether they be soft or lost or hard edges. And then we're going to touch on perspective, but mainly on how important it is, not because that is a whole course on its own. And then we're going to have a little bit of pointers on how to accentuate your focal point. So we could probably take that away, Terry.
Okay, I'll just share the screen here. All right. How is that looking? Yes?
Yeah.
And I need to be able to, well, let's try this. There we go.
Okay. That looks very nice. I could hang that on my wall just the way it is. And Terry put that together for me. I just starting here because planning I find is probably one of the most important things, so that I don't keep chasing things. You know how sometimes you try this and try that and it's not working for you. Well, all of this material here will help not to chase something, but a canvas size can have impact in just how big it is. So if you have a subject matter and you're wondering what size of canvas it is to be on, be very aware that impact due to the canvas size will be variable depending on that. So it's just something to think about at this point, not to get hung up on. I know when I first used my first big canvas, I almost took it back to Opus on the way, taking it out of there. The other really important thing, I work from reference photographs usually, and what's really important is to blow up that photograph, and then I use a very simple device. And what I have here is a mat. Let me turn it this way. It's you know, the mats that you put around frame a picture and then a frame around that. Well, I just cut it up and I put inches down each side so that I can figure out a canvas size when I am working with a photograph. So I can decide how big should it be oblong, whatever. So this, we are not slaves to the photograph. We have to be able to decide what part of the photograph appeals to us and what is important to you. What is it that pulls you in? Next slide.
I'm just going to switch to slideshow view, so it should be much. There we go.
Okay.
And my apologies if the chat window is still in there, but we'll work with that.
No worries.
Okay.
Okay, so the first slide here talks about the colors. Now, warm colors come forward and cooler colors recede. So when we're looking at this strip here, all I've done is taking pure green and gradiated it with more and more and more blue. So if you're looking even a building, if you see an image and there's a building receding, the building doesn't have to be the same color all the way down, especially if it's going into the perspective. So just because a building is green, for example, the front of the building doesn't have to be the same color as the back of the building. And this image that I'm looking at here, you can see how I have cooled off the colors back here and cooler here. So it's warmer in the front and cooler in the back. So that gives a sense of there's something back there. And you know that this is in the front. And even what are they called? Pistils here, or stamens. This one is grayed back. This has got less color in it than this one. So it gives you a sense of that these flowers are moving back into the background. If someone wants to really ask a question, a burning question, just drop it into the chat box and I'll be happy to interrupt me. I'm just going to check my notes, make sure I haven't missed something here. Oh, when you're talking warm and cool colors, usually we say blue is cool and yellow is warm. But when you're looking at a painting, it's the relationship with what it's beside. Like, for example, you could say this is, oh, well, let's see if I can find something in here that works for me. Well, because it's in the foreground, you could say this is a warm color here. But really, if you put that beside, it is a warm color, but it's only warm because of the dark background. Otherwise, it's cool. Does that make sense to you? It's the color that you're working with is what makes it warmer or cooler. You could use a cool color and put it beside a less cool color, and you'll get the effect that I'm talking about. How are you feeling about that? You're nodding, Terry?
I am nodding. That's making sense. This is good.
Okay. So I'm going to leave that for now. And we'll move to the next slide, which is value. Now, value is, and boy, did I ever learn a lot from Donna Zhang on this. Value to me is the most important feature in my paintings. I thought, like, I would want to have a painting that someone can recognize it across a room and seeing it as a painting that they want to see more of. And to me, values is what differentiates a painting and makes you want to go and see it from a distance. So often when I'm painting, I use a couple of devices in order to see if my values work or not. And, you know, you can squint, you can look at it and see, okay, yes, that looks pretty good. I put the painting in black and white so that if it's ever printed in black and white, like in a newspaper, for example, you want it still to have all of the elements there of your design. And this is Alan Dunfield, and he's a master at this. You might want to study some of his work if you're interested in more of this, but you can see he's just gone from just added white. When you're looking at value from one end of the spectrum to the other, you're just adding it lighter and lighter and lighter. And even the lightest parts are up here, which is really, really effective.
Birgit, I will point out to you that somebody has pointed out we can't see what you are pointing at in your painting. So maybe if you can tell me, then I can move my cursor around and
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Can I ask what? I'll just repeat the part about the value on the painting itself. You can see how it recedes, and as it goes back, lighter and lighter has been added to the color of the foreground in order to make it recede. So even the moon and that, they're all, I don't know if they're pure white or not, but it's, I would say they're probably not pure white if you saw the painting in real life, but they appear that way because they're the lightest part of the receding background. Is that better?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Let me check my notes here. Okay, we can go on to the next one.
Okay.
And here we're talking about pure color, like pure unadulterated color, and grade color. And again, from this spectrum that you see with green going grayer and grayer and grayer, just recedes those colors, it recedes back. And how I've done this with the green is I've added not only the blue to it, graying it off, but I've added, no, I'm sorry, I didn't add blue. I added red, because red is the complementary color to green. And if you add, if you look at the complementary color and mix the two together, you theoretically could get black. So here I've added degrees of red as you go down that spectrum, and it grays it off. And you can see that in the photo on Gossamer Wings, the purple has been grayed.
This area here,
grayed back, so it falls back. and even in the bottom section, that's been grayed. So it falls back. Gray is a really important color. And as you, some artists that are more advanced, they'll of course will mix their grays. They won't necessarily use a complementary color. They'll use their palette to build the colors so that there's some cohesiveness in the painting itself. So using varying colors and mixes to obtain degrees of grade color, they also will sing together. But that's, if you're a beginner, that would be for the future. Fair enough now that you just know that you can use the complementary color to have, to gray off your colors. So the next slide is we've combined all of the effects. I've used color, warm to cool. We've used value from dark to light, and we've used pure color to grade color, superimposed them on each other, and gotten this strip of color here. And you can see how Jacqueline Dunn has used that effectively to make her painting recede. She's really skillfully used the colors in the foreground, mixed them together, and created an effect of the whole landscape receding and being far, far away. Okay, we can do the next slide. Here I'm talking about brush strokes and texture. I had took a class with Alan Wiley one day, and he loves his texture, and he made a brick wall with looked like textural brick, and he was going to have his son standing in front of it. Well, when he was finished, it looked like his son was sinking into the wall. And that's because the texture came forward. And here in this particular illustration, again, thank you, Jacqueline, for letting me use this. You can see how the branches of the trees have heavy texture and some of the foreground, and it brings together all of this forward so that the background drops back. It's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Just check my notes. Okay, next we can do the next slide. The next slide talks about the use of edges. This is one of the things that I think I use the most of, is a blurred edge. And here what you don't see so often, and you see hard edges and blurred edges, but you often don't see lost edges. Now, what lost edges do, as in this particular painting, is you can't see where the fabric ends here. You can't, most of the garments are not important, and your eye will fill that in anyway. So you've lost an edge. You don't see where the whole arm is, and you don't see where the whole skirt is. It's just not there, but you know it's there. Your eye will tell you that it's there. Blurred edges are really, can we go back to the last slide again, Terry? Blurred edges are extremely important, like Jackie uses here, in order to recede things into the background. And Jackie is also often very good. She's very good, I shouldn't say often, but she often uses the technique of putting a line and then breaking the line. Like an example might be, you don't have to have the leaf attached to the branch. It can just be away from the branch, and your eye will attach it, and it makes it more interesting for you, the viewer. Okay, let's see if I've missed anything. So my notes here say hard edges draw the eye and bring the subject closer. Conversely, blurred edges suggest distance or less emphasis. Also, if a shape is rounded, the use of a soft edge at the distant verge will help create the sense of a curve. Like a cheek, you don't want a hard edge on that because the cheek is curved, so you want a soft edge there. Now, can I check in with people if you want to put in, unmute if you want? Are there any questions? How are we doing so far? Am I talking above you or below you? No comments?
No comments. I'm enjoying it. I'm getting some lots of information out of this. I really appreciate it. And we're doing well for time, so we're good. We're at 1/2 the hour, so we're doing well.
All right, good. Thanks for that feedback. And I'm just conscious of the fact that there is, even if you know, just are aware of a few of these things, you don't have to be a master of everything all at once, but to experiment and just to be aware of why you like a painting, why is it drawing you in, just to be aware of that is gratifying. So I appreciate that you don't have to know everything all at the same time. It's just years and years of practice and failing and playing with things to see what works and what doesn't work. Okay, perspective. Wow. Let me talk about this painting then. I did this a long time ago after I came back from Tibet, and I was a neophyte at perspective, but so I worked this one to death because there are so many different vanishing points. Like if you there's a vanishing point, there's that, you see that brown wall that's in the very front mid right hand section. Okay. See how it's moving downward? And the window is moving down. Well, all of those have a vanishing point somewhere off the canvas. Okay, and same with the windows on the main building. You can see how they all follow that same vanishing point. The angles are different from one to the other, but only because they're at a different position on the perspective. Okay, and now there's perspective also going upwards, and there's perspective going another direction sideways, like in from right to left. So I played with this. I had fun with this because I changed the photo, and I had to figure out the perspective. So I was drawing new walls that weren't there before. And I was also parachuting the two monks in there. So I worked and worked it until I finally got it right. I think I learned a lot by working hard on that one, but I just wanted to point that out. Oh, by the way, Patricia owns this painting.
Okay.
Yeah. So when we're talking about perspective, it's a course. The course can take a day. It can take 2 days. There's so much to know about drawing and learning about how to use the eye level and the vanishing points, and even really good artists. Sometimes I see things in their paintings that could be improved, because like it looks like sometimes a window is falling off a wall, or a plaque is falling off a wall, because, or it's sticking out in a direction. It's because you might want to check out the perspective if you're looking at a painting and wondering why it's not quite sitting with you.
Okay. Birgit, we've had a comment as well that the perfect level of information, this is from Deb, some good reminders and lots of new info. So,
oh, good. Thanks, Deb.
Yeah.
Now, I have a note to myself here that photos, like you'll probably, first of all, here I've just drawn a simple eye level, vanishing point, and one vanishing point. Most often in most reference material, you will see more than one vanishing point. So it's something really to be aware of and to practice. If you're working from a photograph by its very nature is already distorted. So you have to understand that the edges are different from what's actually real. So the best way I found for me to understand how a photograph is distorted is by painting in real life, like painting still life or painting plein air. And then, you get a better feeling for what real life is supposed to look like so that you can work from a photograph. But especially the sides of a photograph are usually distorted. They're stretched out, and you'll be able to, as you study that, you'll be able to come to terms with that.
Mm-hmm. Getting another comment here too from Jacqueline Dunn. She says, thorough, clear coverage. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Jack. Okay, so we have a final, no, not a final slide, another slide here. Oh, is that their final one? We can go on to the next slide anyway. This is a master. This is Richard Schmidt. And you can see all the things that Richard Schmidt has done in order to create the focal point. You see where the blue is and the red and the yellow and the orangey feeling? Those are all within the spectrum of being complementary colors. So that like red and green are complementary colors, and then the patch of blue in there just makes the whole thing sing. He hasn't used blue alone in that one spot. He's actually got it in two other spots on the painting, which is he is a master. I just, if you are interested in learning about the use of texture and being able to accentuate your focal point by using strong colors or strong brush strokes, he's a great one to study. Okay, so I'll read down some of the things that I observed about this particular painting, and I think of the things that we talked about. We talked about the use of light and dark, so that you can squint at this and you can still see where your eye wants to go. And it would make, even in black and white, it would make a decent painting. And here they've used color even as value, because of the pure color also draws the eye. So value is not only light and dark, but it also can be say a complementary color, or a color that really moves you forward. And what's important that we often neglect is a quiet spot in the painting. You need to rest the eye. I'll use a quote that Donna Zhang told me, and I keep reminding myself of it when I want to fill up my painting and have a lot of detail in it. I remind myself of this quote that she said, "If everything is beautiful, nothing is beautiful. Your eye doesn't know where to go." So you need those quiet spaces as well, and the grade spaces. So in order to make a certain point look beautiful, that where you want the attention to go, you have some resources in order to do that. And every painting has a foreground, a midground, and a background. And I'm not saying that your focal point has to be in any one of those places. They could be in any one of those places. So you superimpose the things that we talked about today, superimpose them onto where your focal point is. How's that? Is anything, any questions at this point? Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Okay, here's Donna's quote, "If everything is beautiful, nothing is beautiful." And something's just what she said to me, and I appreciate Donna so much because she didn't try to change my style to her style or another style. She saw what I wanted to express and was there and said some things that would open up a door for me. And this is another one of the things that she said, and I'm still playing with this one. It's so easy to look at your two-dimensional canvas and get focused on that. But she said, paint as though you're painting through a window. And I'm still coming to terms with that one. So I'm still in the learning process about that. And we're looking at one of Donna's paintings here. I don't know how big this one is, but you can see the receding landscape, the perspective, the use of quiet spaces. It's just, to me, masterful. Yes, and my final quote is my own: the more I learn, the less I know. So I'll be able to answer questions at this point.
All right. I think I'll stop the share right now and bring everybody back in if that's okay. Although I'm hesitant to come away from this beautiful painting. I'm really appreciating now the idea of quiet space that I hadn't even thought of before. So that's wonderful. Thank you for that. And I will put everybody back into gallery view. So if you would like to turn your cameras back on and ask any questions of Birgit right now, that would be fine. Birgit, I have to say, I mentioned to you before, I'm not a painter. I'm only just learning how to do certain things. I've been appreciating paintings for a long time, but I can appreciate them even more now going back. As you were talking, I was thinking that I might just, next time I'm in a gallery, just pick one thing to look for, whether it's lost edges or whether looking at the perspectives. And now I feel like I have a little bit more knowledge about what it is I'm actually looking at and what I'm looking for. So thank you for that.
Mary, you've made this all worthwhile.
Oh, good. That's one of the best things about this job is I get to sit and listen to perspectives from people like you too. So it's great.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity and thank you for those of my friends and those that I don't know. Thank you for joining me. And you know, I mean, maybe some of you will be new friends and we'll run into each other in the art world.
I hope so. We're open to comments too. If people don't just have a question, if you have something that you want to share or something that you've learned either from this or that can add to the discussion.
Yeah, I would like to know what stood out for folks. If you like, what was it about today that stood out for you?
I'd like to make a comment. I can't get my video on, Terry, because it says the person controlling it isn't allowing that.
Well, but, let me change that.
Birgit, a fascinating presentation. Thank you. It brings together every single part, every component piece that you have to look at when you're doing a painting. So it'd be beautifully presented. Thank you. And I would like to ask you a question on the paintings that you do. When you select a new subject to paint, how do you decide the size of canvas you're going to portray that on?
That's a really good question. I was afraid someone was going to ask me that.
You can ignore it if you'd prefer.
It's, sometimes a simple image doesn't speak loud enough if it's too small.
Mhm.
And I think it's a matter of imagining it and getting used to that. But I think it's one of the most neglected tools we have in our quiver, is that we forget, will this image, and sometimes you have to make friends with who you're painting. Like you paint animals. Sometimes I ask the image, how big would you like to, this is really corny, how big would you like to be? Like I make friends with it, and I say, okay, what do you want to say to us? And so it's sounds a little bit corny, but I think about it a long time. I look at the different sizes, and I look at the different configurations and play with it for a long time, because if I don't do that, then I'm fighting it for the rest of the painting.
Yeah,
So
no,
sorry, Patricia.
I actually totally understand what you mean. Don't worry, it makes sense to me.
Okay.
And yeah, I've done that before too, where I've painted something and thoroughly enjoyed it, but wished at the end I had blown it up even more and made it larger.
Yeah. Well,
you learn by
sometimes
mistakes as well.
And I have done a small one as a prototype, and it was so much more magnificent, being blown up, being larger.
Full scale.
Yeah.
Thank you, Birgit.
And sometimes not, so it's an instinct that I think you have to cultivate as time goes on.
Yeah.
Right. So Denise has said, she's got a comment here too, and she says, thank you, Birgit, reminders of lots of important topics. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. Anybody else have any one important thing that kind of stuck out for them?
I see a hand up from Deb.
Hi, Birgit. Yeah, one of the things for me that really stood out was right near the beginning when you were talking about values. And I think I have been really thinking dark to light, really almost exclusively in like the black to white, not really, but you know what I mean? I hadn't realized that there were other ways to think about it, like the way you mentioned true color to grade color, those kinds of things. I think I'll be thinking more about that when I'm painting in the future.
Yeah, one thing I could comment here is sometimes if I can't figure out whether there's enough value difference in a painting, I will do what's called a notan, N-O-T-A-N, and that's using black, white, and gray, just three. And I'll draw the shapes that are in the painting. It doesn't have to be anything, but it'll be the shapes in the painting so that you can get a sense whether they're pleasing or not. However, as you're right, Deb, the gradient for value is, I mean, it's anywhere in between the dark to light. And I have this, of course, your color wheel. Everybody has one of these. You got to have one. And even on the color wheel, I'm discovering things in there all the time. It's got a value area. It's got the value 1 to value 10. And so what I do is if you hold one of those values onto your painting and say, okay, what is this really dark, or is this, you can hold that against your painting and you'll be able to tell how close your value is to the color that you're using, even though it might be a color. The other thing that is really handy, and I don't have it with me, and I poked a hole in the middle of a white card. And if you think your reference photo, you don't quite sure what color to use, if you use that white hole on top of your reference photo, you can see that it's either what you think is white may not be white, and what you think might be the same color over here as over here will not be the same color over here. It's what they're beside, and that's what we talked about a little bit about warm and cool. Just Donna often said, work on your whole painting at once, because you change something in one place, it changes the rest of it. So don't just start at the top and work your way down. Work on the whole painting at the same time so that you can get the fullness of everything that you do. Everything that you do changes things. There's Donna standing in the background. Wave, Donna.
Birgit, I have a question. As someone who doesn't paint, is there value in looking at the paintings that I have that I'm very drawn to, that really speak to me, and trying to analyze which of those elements are the ones that draw me in? Or should I just go, yeah, I'm just drawn to I love it. I love looking at it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good question, Julia. And I used to I love this painting and I would just appreciate it. And most of us are that way. And if you love a painting and you will want to see it on your wall, you don't have to question it. But if you're curious and you are wondering why you like it so much, that I encourage you to figure that out. But I love it when someone buys a painting that they love, not because it matches their couch. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good on you, Julia, that you're getting paintings that you love. And that's the important thing by a long shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. We've got another comment here too from Jacqueline, and she says the information regarding edges resonates.
Well, you're pretty good at it, Jacqueline, anyway. But Jack uses a lot of, she's really good at blurring her edges and making a mystical, if you have a look at her website, she does very mystical looking forest scenes. It almost feels like there should be a little guy in there somewhere saying hello. They're really beautiful because of the way that she uses her blending and her colors and her edges.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Any other comments? Let's see. I'm seeing a very happy dog down on the bottom there. All right, well, maybe this is a natural place to wind up. It's just coming up on the top of the hour, so that's great. Birgit, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your passion and your interest in this. I really do appreciate it. I know I've learned a lot. I know that as we post this up on the website, and like I mentioned, it will be up there for the rest of this year, along with the other talks that we have. I'm certain that people will be getting lots of information out of this talk for some time to come. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you're so welcome. And
nice seeing familiar faces.
Yes. Thank you for everybody who joined in tonight. I really do appreciate that too.
Yeah.
I will let you know that we have one final talk happening for Sooke Fine Arts this year, and it is happening tomorrow night, Sunday, August the 1st. At 7 p.m. and it is by Mary Lou Wakefield, and she's talking about her abstract paintings in acrylic. So you can register online through the events portion of our website. I would absolutely encourage you to go back and take another look again at the pieces, the works that are there. There are some amazing ones. Even now, I still will go through and go, I don't remember seeing that one before. So, it's a real treat to go back and take a look at them as well. So we're Saturday evening. We've got tomorrow is Sunday all day, obviously. And then we have we're open until 5 online on Monday, for the holiday. But we also do have the award winners gallery in live person in the Sooke Arts Council gallery in Sooke, in the middle of Sooke. That is going to continue on until the 8th of August, so another whole week. And it's a small show. It's about 24 pieces. It's the adult show and also our youth art gallery winners. And it's open every day from 11 until 4. So if you're in the area, feel free to drop on by. It is obviously, it's free as well. Of course, we always appreciate donations if that happens. But I'll leave with a final comment here from Deb. She says, I can't believe how much great info you packed into such a short presentation, Birgit. I would have to agree. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, everybody. It's lovely to see you all, and we'll say good night then.
And good questions, you guys.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.